Hello everybody, my name is Rachel and welcome to my channel Colonati. Today I want to talk about Octavia E. Butler's Earthseed novels, Parable of the Sower from 1993 and Parable of the Talents from 1998. Both of these books consist primarily of the diary entries of a woman named Lauren Oya Olamina, who creates a religious movement called Earthseed in response to the terrible changes happening in the world. Parable of the Sower begins when she is in her early teens in the 2020s. She lives outside of LA, and her family is relatively lucky because they actually have employed members of their family who make money, and they live in a walled community that protects them from the falling apart world outside. Due to economic failures and climate change, the United States is sliding into decay to the point where Alaska has actually seceded to become its own country and is fighting a war with the United States. But essentially, to be outside of a safer community where Lauren lives is a death sentence. To travel to and from your home to your work across a city means you will likely be attacked, robbed, beaten, you will be raped and possibly murdered, especially if you are a woman. So even just making a living is impossible or incredibly dangerous. Lauren's community initially seems like they are denying that these things will ever come into their community. They think that they will always be safe because they have this wall and they can support each other. But Lauren realizes very quickly that this situation isn't going to last. Her family, their neighbors, are not always going to be safe. There will be more thefts, more robberies, more people will be accidentally killed from somebody shooting guns at their walls. Somebody will get a key to their gate and come in and murder them all in their beds. And she thinks that they need to be more self-sufficient, they need to learn more about how to live off the land, and they need to have a plan. They can't just sit there and wait for someone to come and take it all away from them. Parable of the Sower is Lauren's coming-of-age story when she formulates her ideas about Earthseed, when she faces the realities of the world outside of the home she always knew, and she goes on a very long, dangerous journey, gathering followers and heading to set up the first Earthseed community. Parable of the Talents picks up about 2 years later when Lauren is living with her husband in their Earthseed community called Acorn. Lauren wants to set up more communities and schools modeled on Acorn to spread Earthseed, but her dreams are interrupted by the rise of a radicalized, extremely conservative American Christian movement and the rise to power of a new president of the US named Jarrett, who the shorthand to describe him is a religious demagogue version of Trump, to the point where he has a campaign speech quoted here that contains the line, "Make America Great Again." President Jarrett's policies and the Christian America movement that very much supports him destroys Lauren's world in some of the most difficult passages I have read in a book in maybe forever. And that leads me to what I think about these books. First is the hyperempathy, which is what it sounds like. It's a condition that Lauren has, and there are other characters who also have it. It's a condition that makes them involuntarily share the emotions and pain and pleasure of people that they see. They have to actually see them. If they see somebody's hurt, then they will feel that pain. This is, I think, clearly a fatal flaw to give to Lauren, so to make her a more complicated person, but it is certainly woven into the other problems that come up when you live in a world where people are killing each other and cannibalizing them because they have no food, they have no water, and people realize that they can hurt you by just making themselves look like they are hurt, like faking you out. Then you're in an incredible amount of danger because it incapacitates you with nobody even having to touch you. I think that I like the idea of this. It initially seemed a bit more like wishy-washy. This is strange when I read it in the first book. It serves to make many of the worst things in Parable of the Talents in particular even worse. However, at the end of these books, I didn't really remember that hyperempathy was a thing, but it's possible that there's just so much else going on that in some ways this element was unnecessary. It just serves to heighten to an almost unbearable degree the terrible things happening. The other thing I want to address is the religious aspect. Both of these books are just steeped in religion and ideas of like the power of religious belief, the power of like fanatical, radical belief, and cults. Earthseed is a cult, and it's not a religion in the way that Christianity or the Christian American movement is, because they don't believe in a God. I think the principal theme of what they believe is change is God. God is change. God isn't a person. God is the only constant in the universe, according to Lauren, and that constant is change. Lauren is an attractive force. She is the charismatic leader, which is what makes this seem cultish, and that she intends to spread Earthseed by making it super appealing. There are bits at the end of the Parable of the Talents where she's discussing with somebody how to wrap up and package Earthseed so that it appeals to people's weaknesses, which is disturbing, because you're reading some of these verses. I was reading some of them and thinking, actually, this sounds kind of true. But then you see the darker side, that this is planned, that it's meant to take over people's minds. And even if it sounds great that Earthseed's eventual purpose, their idea of heaven, is to send humanity to the stars and colonize other planets, it's as if Lauren wants to take away people's choice in the matter a little bit. It's probably just my idea of religious conversion in general, which I've never experienced or anything, but the way it's described and seeing Lauren's thought processes was fascinating, but also really dark. And this mix of, I find this appealing, but I also find this almost revolting. The Christian America movement is sick. I mean, what is it about science fiction novels that use extremely conservative, patriarchal Christian movements as villains? It's over the top. I wish there was some middle ground here, because clearly it's meant to be terrifying and overwhelming and depressing, but there are so few good people, so few positive portrayals of helpful faith or religious belief. It is strange to me. I'm sure there's a reason for this and I just don't know what it is. The one person that all the attention is on, the one person who really gets character development, is Lauren. And I think she's fascinating, appealing like Earthseed, but also revolting like Earthseed. To see that charismatic, intelligent, capable person who you have to really admire for those qualities, consciously trying to build this thing that seems questionable but also helpful, it all gets twisted. I do think that Parable of the Sower was really good. It is the lighter version of this story, and as a coming of age story for Lauren was very fascinating. I was just incredibly impressed by this story, and even though it disturbed me and it made me very anxious and paranoid feeling because of its relevancy to America right now, I had to give it really high marks, and I would absolutely recommend this book. Parable of the Talents, as you can probably tell from what I've been saying so far, was a little too extreme for me. There was never a time when the terrible things weren't being mentioned, especially rape. There is so much rape. And by the end, I was just screaming mentally, enough, I get it, this is horrible. So I think that once again, this is a really strongly written book. The structure gets more complicated because it is pieced together by Lauren's daughter. So every chapter has a section written from her daughter from the future, and then you have essentially flashbacks to Lauren in the 2030s in her diary entries. It works, but it wasn't as straightforward and clean cut and powerful as Lauren's diary entries from Parable of the Sower. Those are my immediate thoughts on the Earthseed books. I really, really wish that the third book, Parable of the Trickster, had been written, but it would have been fascinating based on the ending of Parable of the Talents. I really wish that book existed. If you have read these books, I would love to know what you thought about them. What was your reaction to the subject matter? How do you think that that worked with the plot and the story and the point? And if you have any thoughts about the use of religion and faith in this, and the power of these ideas to like infect people and make them do things, I would really enjoy hearing what other people have to say about it, because I just don't probably know enough to critically analyze this for myself. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will talk to you again in another video very soon, and until then, bye.